Hey, hello there. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to build the selection tools. I have already for a while this selection tool set that I'm selling via Blender Marketplace or Superhive. And today I'm going to go over how to build them yourself. So here you can see the full set. These are all the selection nodes. So for example, you can select the position, XY position of a mesh. You can select the edges, you can select an index, an XYZ, normal select, inside volume select, etc. So we have all these tools, and with these tools you make it very simple for yourself if you want to model something with geometry nodes. So here I have all these collections, and in these collections you see an example of how to use these nodes. So let's dive in, and I'm going to go over all of them. So here we have a grid, and in this grid all these points have an index, and with the index selection it looks like this. There's just we take the index and we take the equal of that index, and then you can also with the switch node here invert if you want the point inverted. And then if we go a layer up, I have plugged it here into the group input, so you can select which index disappears. And if you invert it, then it will stay. So this is very simple, not very difficult to build. So this is how you do it. Put it in a group node, and then you can use it in any kind of setup. So that's the index selection. You have also the edge selection, and the edge selection looks like this. We take an equal node, vector element wise equal, and then we take the signed angle, and here you can also flip it. I'm taking the result and drive it through a reverse, or it's not boolean not, then you reverse it, so you can reverse the selection. And I plugged it in here so you can see what happens. Now it's not taking the edges, but everything that's not that, and here it takes the edges. So here we say with the epsilon you can tell it to take a little bit more of the edge or a little bit less. So we have this cube. This is the cube. If we look here, it only selects the edges here, and then also the face that goes along with it. So here delete point, and I'm taking this edge selection result, and then it deletes only the middle faces. And here I'm doing delete, or here I'm deleting the point, here I'm deleting the faces. So the faces stay, edges, faces. And I'm also doing an extrude and a merge by distance, and also a making it smooth by a subdivision. Oh, I subdivided it here. So, but basically this is the output. I turn off this, so you can delete these faces. So the cube, the faces, or you can invert it. So that's the edge selection node. If I turn this all back on, edge selection, then it returns to normal. Then next we have the inside volume selection, and that's how it works, like this. Let's clean this up a little bit. There are some new nodes that are now here, so it also takes the UV maps. And also here, I need to put it the other way around. Where is this going? I'm always trying to make a clean looking node setup so you can see the flow. So there's no or not many intersecting noodles, as they call them, so everything becomes very readable. What I also do sometimes is like stacking them, so it becomes like a column, so you understand that this is a whole procedure, and that makes it quite clean usually also. I'm planning also to do a tutorial on how to do node setup so they stay quite readable, and also for people that want to adjust them, that they can just go in and understand what is happening in these node groups, so it's not one big mess. I think that's also, if you sell a tool, and it must look also professional, and that you can also adjust and tweak things. That's also why I'm making the tools that you can go in yourself. I don't want to shield that or anything, or make an add-on that you don't know what is going on. You can also always go in and change things and customize it to your own liking. But what's happening here, we have a cube. If we do a viewer node, this is the cube, and we are transforming it by rotating the cube, and we take the volume, and you can also invert it, just like all these nodes that I made. Invert takes the outside, here the translation, the rotation. If I rotate this cube, you see the inside volume changes, and here I'm taking a curve, resampling it, and putting instances on points. So I make all these vertical lines, then I realize the instances, and then I'm deleting all the geometry that is outside of the volume, and then I'm putting some balls or spheres on them, so you can see what is going on. How this works is as follows. If we go in here, we are taking geometry proximity. Let's clean this up a little bit. This is going into the invert again. You can switch, drive it through a not node, the Boolean result. So I'm taking the geometry proximity, I'm plugging in a position node, and I'm subtracting the position of the object by just the position. And I'm taking faces here. So it knows the inside and outside of this object. And here I'm taking the nearest to surface, and I'm taking the normal. I'm making vector here, and then putting the normal in, and I'm using the dot product of this normal and the subtracted positions. Then I'm using a less than and plugging it in, using 0.001 in the b value, and then you get the result, which you can use to delete all the instances outside of the volume. So that's how this node works. Random island selection mesh. So what's happening here is you get a random selection, and here you can use the probability to select more or less. And we also have a seed, so it changes the randomness. Let's put this one to 0.5, this one is 0.3, and this one is 0.7. So it's just a grid. As you can see, I'm using mesh lines to make a grid, realizing the instances, putting icospheres on them to make this grid, realizing them, and then deleting the points with this random mesh. And it's just a Boolean, very simple. So random value, taking the Boolean, and then using the island index in the ID, and then you can change the seed and the probability. So that's how the random mesh island select works. So next up is the rep select, and with rep select you can select a pattern within a grid or in the grid of indices. So you can set like put fill 1 and skip 4, and you can say skip 1 and fill 1, or fill 2 and skip 1, and in this way you can say what kind of pattern that you want. So here I make a grid again, and I make instances and fill them with an icosphere, so you get these dots. And then here, this is the wrap select. So I connected the wrap fill and wrap skip to the parameters, and this is how it works. So you have an index and a wrap node, which is just a math node, and I chose wrap. And here I have the max and the minus that I'm adding 1, and I multiply by -1 to flip it, so you just can use positive values here. So this is how you build it. Very easy, very simple, but very effective if you want to make patterns. The next one is the XYZ phase select, and that's just an XYZ. You can just check the boxes if you want to keep the Z or the -Z or the Y minus Y, etc. So here you can see this one, I have only the X removed. When I do the Z, it removes the top. When I do the Z, minus Z, it will remove the bottom. And this way you can just delete faces of your model. And you also have an angle if you have like a circular or a spherical object and you want to take more of the Z. So this is exactly the Z normal, but if you want to have a little bit more of the angle, you can use this angle parameter. That's how the phase select works. I can show you here, and this is a little bit more complex. I'm combining all these Boolean results with switches. So actually it's just an equal node with a normal. So I'm taking the normal and I say this one deletes or selects actually the z-axis. So it's x, y, z. This is the -c. This is the y, the -y, the x, and the -x. And here I'm combining them with an OR node, and here 2 more to make it all into one output. And here you see that with a switch you can select if you want to use that selection or not. So that's how this one works. Here we have the position node, and with the position node you can just select a certain position. So here you can see I'm using the X position. So this whole line is in the 0x range, and I can also expand it or I can move it. I want more or less in the X position. I can use the Y position, also move that one. And there's also greater than, so I can widen it. And this way it's easy to delete or select the middle of an object or a cross section, or delete one whole part of, like I'm doing here. You see the different values here. Now I set this up. It's again a little bit more complex, but I'm using compare nodes and then a greater than node with a separate XYZ, and that comes in from a position node. It's just everything below this is a copy. This needs a little bit more space, so you can see, or I hide it. I'm using just the Y. Here I'm using the X value, and here I'm using the Z. So then you know why these are split like this. And I'm using here a switch to use these values, or just use the 0 value. And let's make this smaller also, and this is the invert one. So I'm using a not node to invert the selection again. So that's what you do with this one. So this is how you build it. This is the Z, and this is the Y, and this is the X part. And here you can see how they all connect to the parameters group input. How you can determine how much you want from these positions. So that is the positions select. Then next we have the direction select, and with the direction select I select certain curves that go in a particular direction. So here I use direction of 80, here of 10, and here of 15. So the higher this value is, if we do 80, then it takes a lot more, and it's in the X, it's 45. You can also set that to 0, then it takes the top, and put this to 10 or maybe 40, and you see it takes a lot more. And it's mirrored, so in the bottom it also takes away the direction of these curves. Now it's only taking one direction. And how you do that is that you do direction select. I take the curve tangent and use a vector rotate, axis 1, and here I set the angle. I use another vector rotate, and then in the, so this is in the Z axis and this is in the Y axis. So you rotate the, I call it X and Z. Yeah, this is the X, this is the Z. So that's why they are linked here. And then I use a less than and a 2 radians. So here you can actually put radians. It translates it to radians, and then uses a less than node to calculate the. This is for the mirrored one. That's why here you have the switch to mirrored, and this is the regular one, the top one. So this is how you build this node. So you can select the direction of certain curves. Then next we have a random instances material. I found that this was also hard to do just with material nodes, but this is how I did it. So I'm using a random value with an index ID, and I flip it for the delete geometry, the second one. So the geometry comes in, which is, let me see, it's again, I'm building a grid here and realize it, instances, put the icospheres there. So it's measuring instances, here it's deleting instances randomly. So here I am, we go into the viewer node, we can see what happens. Here I have these instances, and here I have the opposite instances. And then here I join them together. First I color them. So these ones are red, these ones are blue. And here I combine them again. And then for the second phase I do it again. I have these ones that I delete. I have here the opposite ones. And then here I set the material to yellow. And then I combine them again. So you have 3 random color values that you can pick. And here you can set the probability, so how much blue you want in there, how much yellow you want in there, and the seed, so you can change also the randomness. So that's how this random material instance works. Then here we have an expand node. And with the expand node, here you can say, I want to expand my selection. Here, I just pick an index that takes a selection. So where is it? Floor expand, it's this one. Here I select an index, and this selection is being expanded. And I do that with a repeat zone. So evaluate domain on point. Then I evaluate the domain on edge, then on point again, and then use a seal. So it you select this point, then it selects the edges of the point, and with seal you select the next points. And when you repeat this, you will expand your selection. So it's actually the same as select more, more or less, more. This is what it does actually. So you can use the select expand selection in this way. Then next we have an index visualizer. This is a quite complex one. I got this from another tutorial that someone made, and that one is quite complex. If you Google or put on YouTube and Blender index visualizer, you get the tutorial for this. I will put in the description where this is. Amazing way how this was done. Pretty complex on how to build it, but this one I also have in there, so you can use to see the indices. I also build in myself that it takes the normal of the face, so you see all the numbers of the face indices on the face itself. Then next we have the wrap instance material. So it's the same that you can make a pattern selection, but then with materials. So here you can fill and skip. So it fills 4 and it skips 2. So 4 yellow, 2 red, and that works in this way. So I'm taking the geometry, I delete instances, set the material, and then combine them together again. And here I flip the selection also. And then you use these nodes in front of your wrap and connect them to an index. It's quite simple. Then next we have a XYZ selection, and that is selecting also certain directions of curves. So here's the XYZ Select. Here we have a cube. I delete only faces. Let's see what is in here. This is the cube, and here I delete the lines of the z-axis. So if we go in, here you can see how I did that. I use an edge vertices, and I use the position of the first vertex and the second vertex, and I subtract them. Then I use an absolute, so it's the vertices that are exactly above each other, or in this case in the x or in the x direction, here in the y direction, and here if they are exactly above each other, then it selects them. And then with a switch you can add them in or take them out, and here I combine them again and invert them with the not node. And in this way you can select the z or the y or the x, or you can invert it if you need a different direction. So this is how the XYZ selection works. Then next we have the outline element. Outline element, very simple. I have here a viewer node. This is a plane and it has certain vertices, and it takes the outline, so the outer vertices of the object, or the outer edges actually. And here you can see it deletes all the middle ones. And here you can make it a curve or a mesh. If we go into it, I just delete edges, and greater than 1 if you use an edge neighbors. This works to delete or to select the rim of your mesh. And here I set mesh to curve if you want to make this into a curve also from your mesh. So that is the last one. These are all the ways in which you can make selections of your model. I think I got all of them. You can get them in a bundle, or you can get just the index selection tools on Blender Market or Superhive, or you can build them yourself, because now you know what is in these nodes. So I hope this is really useful, and I hope to see you in the next one. Okay, bye!